people yelling, fuck the system. Well, I already did that like an old flame. I was sent to Earth with a mission. But first I gotta work through all the old pain, work through all the traumas that affected. My mind, body, spirit is connected. I'm tryna feel good, it's time to heal good. I'm tryna feel good, it's time to heal good. I'm tryna heal.
Welcome back, it's Makenta.
And I'm Tabisha.
And this is Heal Good.
A space where we discuss how to take healing into your own hands.
Because we know if you want to feel good, you gotta heal good.
I know that's right.
Today, we are talking about techniques and ways that we've learned how to disconnect from the outside noise so that we can actually hear ourselves. And sometimes the noise that we're referring to, not sometimes, but the noise that we're referring to is social media, the news, current events, all those things. We know we can't ignore them forever, but it can take a toll on our mental health and really kind of just distract us from our everyday happiness if we get overly consumed. And I feel like a lot of people really do talk about struggling with that right now. Everything's just so in our face and we haven't really got a break from that in so long. So there's ways that we just take it upon ourselves to intentionally disconnect so that we can reconnect to ourselves.
What are some ways that you disconnect?
Well, a big one for me that I'm not going to say it's easy. It's definitely something that I do right now is social media disconnecting, because I made a rule for myself this year. Like, I'm not arguing with anyone on the internet. When I see things that like upset me, it's okay for me to take a step back and like log off. One thing that I do is I made a rule for myself that I no longer am allowed to pick up my phone first thing in the morning. Like, that's my first limit, because it's like you're letting 500 people into your space first thing in the morning energetically. So I really had to stop doing that, because I feel like it's just so easy to be consumed in social media and like you never know what you're gonna see. Is there anything like in terms of social media that you do to disconnect?
Yeah, definitely not letting 1,000+ people in my space right away. You just don't realize how much energy that takes from you right away in the morning. So that's a great point. But some ways that I disconnect, just setting limits. So if I'm not adding value that day, I definitely want to make sure that I'm setting limits on myself, because then I can just spend way more time that I need to on there than necessary. I'm definitely at a point where I'm trying to create more than I consume, just making sure that I'm getting into my routine before I'm dealing with electronics. Very helpful.
Mm-hmm. And I think also, like, for when we do have to go on, another thing is like, if you're seeing things on your timeline constantly that upset you or like make you feel a certain way that you don't like just unfollow those accounts, block whatever you have to do, because we don't yet know the consequences of our social media use. Like, we know a little bit of how it affects our mental health, but we don't have all the information of like long-term how being so consumed in our phone like will really affect our brains. And so if I am going to be on there, I want, it's not always controllable, but if there's people who upset me or people who trigger me, I just unfollow them now, so that when I am on that space, it's not creating more noise and turmoil than necessary. At the end of the day, it's not really productive yelling at strangers on the internet. It's really not. Even when it comes to setting limits, sometimes I physically put my phone in a different room, just so that temptation, because how many times like you ever like sitting there and then all of a sudden you're like in an app and you're on Instagram and you don't even know how you got there. Like, you don't even remember picking it up. Like, I will literally like put my phone in a different room. There's always that feeling of like a little bit of anxiety when you don't have your phone on you. Like, what if there's an emergency? And it's like, usually it's like, no, there's no emergency. Like, that's just like the anxiety created from the addiction of that. It's like almost like we could kind of become like a little bit addicted to chaos. I know I could become addicted to the drama, addicted to having to know. It's like I have to treat myself like a child and just take it away.
Even if that's not even connected to social media, just like mainstream media, like the news. Sometimes it could just be really overwhelming when it's like one event after another. So just like screen breaks. I say screen breaks and I stand by that, but sometimes you just need to completely like tap out of everything that's like going on and like watch a movie, like watch a show, watch something that's like uplifting, you know, instead of like tuning into all the other things that are going on.
It's not saying like you have to ignore what's going on in the world, but it really does have an effect. Like if you're someone who like you turn on the news first thing in the morning, don't think that won't affect your day. Because I know even for myself, like the days where because I'm not perfect, sometimes I do pick up my phone first thing in the morning, and then I have to correct that behavior halfway through the day when I'm like, why do I feel scrambled? Why do I feel stressed? And then I have to stop and do my morning routine and not have my phone around me. So it's like you might not be perfect at it right away. We're really talking about social media news, but that also goes for people too. Like if you hang out with someone or find yourself like drained after a while, like disconnect from that person for a bit.
It's okay to take a break in the realm of these things right now. But there is a big difference, a thin line between taking a break and escapism.
Yeah, it's not saying like pretend that nothing's going on in the world. Pretend like just ignore it and pretend like nothing's happening. No, like you can't necessarily escape it, but you can set limits that allow you to disconnect, because you might not even realize how much noise is in your ear and in your head that is actually like affecting you in a negative sense. The second part is how to reconnect back to yourself, like after you've disconnected. Okay, so you may be like, okay, I stopped watching the news, I set limits on my social media, but I still feel like anxiety, because all that stuff can still like linger in your head. And I think the second step is reconnecting to yourself and reconnecting to things that basically allow you to hear your own voice. Like if there's a million screams from every direction, you might not even be able to hear what you're saying. So when it comes to like reconnecting, my number one thing that I do that's like a non-negotiable for me every day is journaling, because it helps me be aware of what thoughts are running through my head. It really allows me to become clear of like what my thoughts are, what's in my head. And then when it's out on the paper, I can dissect like, okay, does this really belong to me? Can I believe this thought? Is this thought even helpful for me? And it's not to judge my thoughts, because a lot of times like I usually journal like first thing in the morning, and a lot of my thoughts are so scrambled. I'm saying it's not even coherent. It's nothing that I would want anyone to read, because it doesn't really make sense. But then once I filter those thoughts out, then I can get more meaningful thoughts and become clear on what I do want to think. And I know like a lot of people have trouble with journaling. Maybe one day we can do like a thing of just explaining like how I made that a habit, because it took me a while to make it a habit. But for me, something that I do to reconnect with myself every single day.
So how I reconnect with myself is just getting out into nature and getting outside on a daily basis, whether that's for a walk or if I'm just heading to the park to just like read or stretch. Getting outside and movement, that's something that I absolutely have to do on a daily basis.
I never want to at first. Like it's always like this resistance, this battle of like, I don't really have to. But I always feel different after, even if it's just a walk, because there's something about like getting the energy flowing through your body that even there's something about the challenge the challenge of doing something that makes you immediately present, and your ego and your brain will fight you on it at first. But like another way that is to like do the hardest thing that you have to do like earlier on in the day, because it's almost like you get that challenge out of the way early and you feel rewarded. So it like helps against like procrastination, which for me, I think my procrastination stems from being too connected to things, to the noise, and not being connected enough to myself, where the thought of having to connect to myself, I start like avoiding it, even though I know the connection to all the other noise is like hurting me. It's like, it could definitely be like a mental battle, but these are things that like automatically kind of shift you, like, because we are nature too. So like even being in, like you said, being in nature, it creates this energetic shift of presence, like automatic presence.
Just like finding something that helps you stay present, whether that's like movement and going for a walk, same thing. But whether that's getting out into nature, doing some yoga, some stretching, or like an actual workout, or dancing, journaling, meditating, hey, even cleaning, I realize those are things that, anything that makes you present.
Cleaning is a huge one, because if your space, there's so many times where I'm like, why can't I focus today? And then sometimes it takes me the whole day to realize, like, as soon as I clean up, I'm like focused again, because your outer environment affects your brain. So like when there's that, like that outer noise can be just the mess of your apartment, or like the laundry that's piling up that you didn't do, that you said you were gonna do 4 days ago. This is me to me.
That drawer with the random things in it, like you know, just the outer world reflects like the inner world. So just paying attention to where certain energy needs to be sorted out in your space could definitely help with becoming more present for whatever task.
Anything done intentionally, and it is kind of like a battle with yourself to do it. Like in my experience, I never want to clean, but after I clean, I'm like, I should have just done this earlier, because it creates momentum. And sometimes the momentum, I feel like for a lot of people, momentum is in the wrong direction, when it's like we are getting momentum off all these like outside sources instead of creating momentum through our inner source. And when we reconnect to our inner source, the outer sources become easier to manage, easier to create boundaries. So it's like they really just go hand in hand.
Definitely. Challenge. Actually, I don't want to say challenge. I want to say opportunity.
Ooh.
Opportunity. If you're listening to this, give yourself the opportunity this week, if you can, to try a new way to reconnect with yourself. Or maybe that could even be an old way that you used to connect with yourself. Maybe reconnecting with that again to become more present. And see how you feel. Observe that. If you feel good, that's awesome. Try to make it a habit. You know, it could be, I don't say challenge it could be an opportunity to create a new habit.
Really, it's just reframing it.
Yeah.
Because it probably the first time you do it, it will be a challenge, but but call it an opportunity instead of a challenge, basically. And I just want to add to that, if you do this, try to do it first thing in the morning. Try to do it before you do just get it out of the way right away, and see at the end of the week, see like how many times you actually did it, and how your day went on those days compared to the days where you didn't. There's a distinct difference on days where I pick up my phone, or even, it doesn't even have to be my phone.
360.
Yeah. Or it could even be like when I don't even just, it doesn't even have to be that I just pick up my phone. It's every day that I don't do something for myself first. It could be that someone is calling me. It doesn't matter who it is. I can't answer you first thing in the morning, because I need to put my energy on myself first, even if it's the smallest way, even if it's like I shower first. But I can't give my energy out before I give it to myself, because that sets the pace for the rest of my day. And again, I'm not perfect. This is something that I want to say I'm challenged by, but it's an opportunity for me to do this as well. So I'm going to commit to doing that this week.
I'm going to try doing that hardest thing right away. Like, I'll stretch and then do more of my routine, and then I'll get into the dancing or like the workout later. But I realize that just getting it all out helps me so much more. But I also feel like sometimes during the day I want to have like, I use like the movement as like my pause to kind of like break away from everything else. But I'm just gonna try switching it up a little bit and seeing how it goes this week. So that's what I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so just adding that structure, and just know that if you are feeling a lot from what's going on, we got a bunch of planets in retrograde. There's just a lot going on.
Y'all.
It's okay. It's okay. Just
take your time. Take your time. Just give yourself the space that you need right now to understand your feelings, to understand the next step that you may want to take. I feel like it's a whole reassessment in retrograde. It's okay to look at things before you move forward and to slow down. Just crossing our T's and dotting our I's right now.
You're not alone in this, and I think it's just more than ever about helping ourselves so that we can be helpful in the world, instead of just like, I don't want to add to the noise. I want to speak with intention. So that's all we got.
That's it.
For this week, folks. I don't know what it is with me saying folks lately.
You're folks.
I don't know. It's just, hello, folks. But yeah, please, if you do take up the challenge/opportunity, let us know how it goes. DM us at Makenta World, at Tabisha Bond. And yeah.
We'd love to chat.
But not before our morning routine.
But not before that. It's a whole different person you're going to